Onto this now. The Prevention of Violence Against Women and Girls in Southern Africa conference is wrapping up in Johannesburg today. It's aimed at finding solutions to prevent all forms of violence against women and children. Luxolo Matomela from the German Development Corporation and UN Women joins us in studio. Good morning to you, ma'am.
Good morning.
Thank you very much for making the time.
Yes.
What are some of the solutions? You're wrapping up today. What were some of the discussions and, importantly, as I say, the solutions to this problem?
Sure. So, you know, when we focus on gender-based violence, it's incredibly tempting to only look at response services, looking at the interventions in terms of the criminal justice system, shelters. But what was really great about this conference is we were looking at the root causes. We were looking at how it is you prevent violence before it occurs.
Root causes?
Root causes, a couple. So violence emanates from deeply held beliefs and attitudes. So school-based interventions will work, where you do programs and mobilizations on ground level. Community mobilization also really works, where you use community leaders. You don't go out and get somebody else to come into a community and tell them what to do. What has been seen to work is if you get people from the community and peer learning. And another one is
Before you move on,
yes,
whilst we're still on the community element, there are suggestions, or some people are saying that the kind of violence, for example, that is manifesting in schools is a reflection of a violent society that South Africa is. Are South African communities indeed violent?
I mean,
without a
definitely,
doubt, is that what you're saying?
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. It would be obvious to anyone who's living in our society. You just have to look at the statistics. Yes, our society is violent, and schools are part of the society. No one is working outside of the society. So that violence that I said emanates from these deeply rooted beliefs, these attitudes, these norms, these standards, these stereotypes, patriarchy, the unequal gender dynamics that we see. It's going to seep into our learners. It seeps into our communities. It even seeps into the media, which is another site that we can use as a preventative measure.
How so? How do we fit into this picture? It's worrying.
As the media, you have so much power to shape what people think, shape how people think of themselves and their society as large. So if the media were to better take on their roles in that respect and to think about how you can use your power to start getting people to think differently about themselves, about the society that we live in, that in and of itself is a preventative measure. You would have already started to tackle those deeply held beliefs, those deeply held attitudes, simply by focusing more on gender-based violence in your stories.
I was about to ask you that. How do we do it?
Focusing more on gender-based violence in your stories, but not also that. If we look this morning, it was a bit of a boys' club here, looking over the news. So something as simple as, who do you hear? Research has shown that only 49% of television sources here in South Africa are women. So what does that tell young girls and women sitting at home? That mansplaining is the way to go. Only men can explain politics to us. Only men can explain economics to us. And so it has to be deliberate, Oli. We have to deliberately start getting women on board so that those representations start making me at home think about myself differently.
Just finally, and very, very briefly, the solutions that you've come up with from this conference, implementable?
Yes. Now,
how implementable are they going to be?
So our conference is called the Prevention of Violence Against Women and Girls, Evidence to Action. So the entire point of these solutions is that they are evidence-based. They have been tried and tested. 14 of the 16 SADC countries are represented here. I'll give one quick example. In Uganda, there is an initiation called Raising Voices. It has been shown to work through scientific research. And again, it's what I told you from the beginning, looking at the structural drivers of GBV. And it's based on an approach where they go door to door. Old school community mobilization on the ground from the community, coming together and saying, what can we do about this? How do you feel about this? How do you think about this?
Luxolo Matomela, thank you very much
for making the time
to speak to us.